Hello,
Hello,
everyone,
everyone,
and welcome
and
to
welcome
today's
to today's
session
session.
entitled Cloud Modernization Executive Roundtable, sponsored by VST and Informatica. We are very delighted to have you here today, so allow me to thank you for gracing us with your presence amid your busy schedule. My name is Erica Valenciano, and I'm the Product Manager of Informatica at VST Philippines Incorporated. VSTECS is the leader in local ICT distribution, and we represent the most trusted ICT brands globally. VSTECS has repeatedly updated its portfolio with new and leading edge solutions. And as a result, it has evolved into one of the recognized local IT distributors in the country, offering a comprehensive lineup of products, solutions, and services for multi industries. Informatica, on the other hand, is the only enterprise cloud data management leader that accelerates data driven digital transformation. Informatica enables management leader and companies to fuel innovation, become more agile, and realize new growth opportunities, resulting in intelligent market disruptions. Informatica has helped more than 9,500 customers over 25 years unleash the power of data. And I am happy to announce that VSTECS Philippines Incorporated has been chosen once again to be Informatica's value added distributor in the Philippines. We are excited for all of you to learn in today's session best practices, successes, and learnings around Informatica's cloud data warehouse modernization, why data management and governance are critical for successful advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, and robotic process automation, and as well as the modern cloud architecture. So, just a little housekeeping before we get started. We encourage everyone to participate by asking questions as we go along with the presentation. Our speaker would like this session to be as interactive as possible, so you may send in your questions at any given time during the presentation using our chat box or participate in the question and answer session. Okay, to jumpstart with our session and to give his opening remarks, it is a great pleasure to have with us today Informatica's Regional Sales Director for Southeast Asia, Korea, and India, Mr. Roberto
Roberto
Aldon.
Aldon.
And thank you for taking the time out to attend this session. I hope you will all make it a very interactive one, like Erica said, and you've got Daniel and Kent on the line, so please ask them lots of hard questions. I would like to say a big thank you to Svet, Erica, Chat, Maurice, and the team there at VST ECS for our continued partnership, and we look forward to working a lot closer with you as our customers and partners through VST ECS in the Philippines. Now, I think you'll all attest to the fact that as we usher in the new year of 2021, we're all starting to realize that 2020 was not a phase and the new normal is continuing, and business as we knew it will probably never happen again, or not for a very long time. So what we're seeing when we're talking to customers out there in the field and partners working on behalf of organizations is really a constant state of flux. Companies are trying to innovate quicker. They're trying to uncover efficiencies faster and also help redefine business processes that once fit their business requirements, but with this new remote style of working or having to get to customers faster, but not from within bricks and mortar and branches and in different avenues, people are having to look at what is the new secret sauce for this new world. And how are other organizations and their peer groups around the globe, not just within their local domestic markets, but how are they going about doing this? So as a follow-up to our session that we did at the VSTECS CXO Summit last year, where Dan presented, we talked about accelerating cloud analytics and cloud analytics modernization. Well, we have Daniel Clark back today with his trusted right-hand technical man, Kent Makatange. And they will be facilitating this. What I can see from the presentation is on theme of a Super Bowl themed presentation from yesterday's Super Bowl. And the session will be all around modernize or migrate and a great cloud debate around that. So from that, we want to encourage you to be open and have ideas, share best practices and experiences, and really help with that debate around, do we modernize our legacy applications, or do we migrate them to cloud infrastructure or to cloud solutions? And Dan and Kent have got a great presentation for you today, and I hope you all see true value from that presentation. And with that, Dan, I believe I'm handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Roberto. I appreciate the introduction and very much appreciate being here today and working with the team that's put this together. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, you're loud and clear, Dan.
Okay, very cool. Thank you for that. I should, fingers crossed, be sharing a screen that should have the successful Tom Brady on it. Can everyone see this? Cool, we're good to go. Yeah, once again, thank you very much to VST. We very much appreciate working with them. Excited about some of the developments that we've seen across Philippines, where we're going to work closely together. An awful lot of that is how it incorporates towards cloud. The principle of today's session is we wanted to share, but we also wanted to chat with all of the attendees that have kindly given us some of their time today. So the principal idea of this is that we make this as interactive we can. We share some stuff, you share some stuff, and we try and learn from each other. To introduce myself, I presented before, had the pleasure to do that. Dan Clark, been with Informatica 10 years, worked along some of our next gen analytics technologies and have started to do more work involved in organizations, as Roberto mentioned, around this journey towards cloud. I've been joined by Kent. Kent is our senior solutions lead for the region. Kent has been exposed in cloud technologies probably for far too long, but has a depth and breadth that can show and share some of the use cases, the goods and bads that we've seen certainly across engaging with some of the region here. So yeah, please feel free to use some of this. The idea of today's agenda is we want to run through some of the holistic themes that we've seen around what is the holy grail for analytics, and not just on premise, but this movement towards cloud. The debate around the justification for cloud, is it modernization? Is it migration? And then of course, looking at some of the transformation stories that we've seen with cloud being the enablement technology that has fast tracked, reiterating what that's gone through in this ever-changing world is the condensed architecture changes that we've seen at Informatica across organizations moving to wanting to be more flexible, more transparent in architectures, and having to adjust so much quicker, which is where we've seen adoption of cloud enabling all of this. So the first element we just wanted to run through is the transformation requests that we're seeing across business models, across verticals, across the region. And fundamentals to that are just the service level agreements that the everyday person requires. Now we're consuming everything on mobile content, the requirement for real-time responses, engagements models, and just the level of the service levels that we expect in day to day. This is applicable to all verticals, and we've seen it across the banking sector with some of our very successful deployments, Union Bank domestically, but we've also seen it in some of the other verticals where they're starting to roll out and adopt new business models. So the building blocks to transformation are all focused on the same things. There's a strategic mindset for business change. We've seen a paramount shift towards engaging cloud native technologies to fast track this strategic mindset for change. Nobody can argue the fact that now data and being data led is a fundamental executive level conversation. And we've also seen the appetite towards augmenting and starting to business process some of your day-to-day activities. In our instance, some of the work that we do around data management, around applying machine learning or applying AI capabilities in day-to-day. And this is just fundamentally optimizing some of the rudimentary tasks that we take for granted. But the key element that we've seen here is the appetite towards cloud native, purely for the fundamental requirements around the speed of change that we're all being pushed daily to do. I'm sorry, this seems to be slightly out of focus, but one thing to consider here at the get-go, when we have these debates around investment on legacy technologies that are on-premise based, tied to relevant day-to-day costs. When you do just a baseline comparative against on-premise technologies versus run rate cloud compute, the multipliers just don't add up at all. When you incorporating all of the third-party inputs, so we're talking about hardware, the ongoing training, the maintenance of hardware from a monthly to yearly subscription basis, as a comparative against the very simplistic speed of deployment, implementation and customization, as well as the software lifecycle management piece, the movement to cloud compute is not even in question. And we've seen this for some of the more advanced organizations in region that made this decision 5 or 6 years ago. The interesting fact we're seeing now in the cycle of cloud compute is where there are other factors that need to be considered when you're thinking around, how do I move to a cloud-based architecture? How do I start to have my fundamental architecture disciplines around data governance, data quality? How do I understand what data sets have moved to the cloud? These are additional things that we've seen organizations have to think about, rather than just the debate, which is a no-brainer, of moving technology stacks to cloud, moving legacy data sets to cloud storage. So yeah, there's fundamental proof on these things. I guess at this stage, when looking at the attendees here, what you should ask about is a number of these questions that are applicable to you. We've seen this on a number of conversations and journeys we've had with our clients, is how do I best serve my customer? How do I best serve a 360-degree view so I know all of the touch points at any one point in time? I need to know, how do I merge legacy data, legacy touch points with the ongoing future touch points that you have with your customer. So the 360 view is paramount. Consolidation of data, of how actually merging the old with the new. How do I do this in a very time-based but also cost-based manner? But then how do I look at things around protecting and securing PII data, applicability of certain data sets that you know as an IT organization, you need the disciplines to know where it is, where it resides, is it masked, is it safe? So there's a number of things that you need to have a think about that's just wider than just, I need to ingest my data into a AWS, Azure, or a Google environment. And we've seen these questions come up around multiple challenge, where you start thinking slightly wider than just the holistic, I'm moving things to cloud. I guess when we start to talk about this, the first element that we want to drill in is for the roundtable is, I want all of us to have a think about where you sit, which camp you sit. Moving to the American football theme, is are you team migrate? Are you team modernize? And if you start with the fundamentals to questioning why you're doing things, from not just a business process, but also from IT decisions, you can possibly see yourself in two separate camps here. The fundamental idea around, I just need to move around, I just need to move data sets, I'm starting with a very small, simplistic use case, or I'm looking at a certain journey over 3-4 years where we are looking to do more advanced use cases. We need to modernize our whole data infrastructure accordingly. So these long-term, short-term decisions are things that we've seen organizations that have done well have thought about at the get-go. And so when we start to kind of set our goals, set the position, set our tasks, you need to consider all of the elements of, I want to get a modern cloud analytics architecture from day one, but I also need to consider some of the disciplines that I've taken from all of my on-premise technologies over the years. So when you have a look at some of the statistics to back this up, 65% organizations apply AI or want to apply AI within their go forward strategy sets. 45% operation on-premise systems and near performance capacity. The interesting element is 500% of business users wanting to be able to trust data sets. And this is even more prevalent when you start to move towards self-service and you're trying to move to an organization that is absolutely data driven, where you are freeing up the business users to be able to data mine independently, not reliant on the traditional business intelligence architectures, take advantage of machine learning and AI tools. So the internal trust of your generated data sets, your generated BI reports, is one of the most important things across all of the organizations, agnostic of cloud, agnostic of on-premise. So that's a really important point to think about along the strategy piece. The other piece about it all is the complexity. And so we've done an awful lot of statistics on pulling in from Gartner and other third parties around how we actually build in complexity of moving to cloud. So we're moving to the next stage around speed and scalability. How do I optimize what data sets go to the cloud? How do I actually optimize which organizations would have access to those data sets? Then you start having to consideration of, should I be moving to a multi-cloud or a hybrid cloud architecture phase one? And there's lots of data, data points suggesting that this is potentially the best go-to-market architecture that you should be looking at when you're going to cloud. Finally, another valid point again goes back to the 500% of trusted data sets. How do I solve the problem around data quality? Dirty data in, dirty data out. So if I'm migrating dirty data sets from on-premise, I'm just moving it to a dirty data set in the cloud. How do I set the disciplines of DQ as part of my journey so then I can actually start moving clean data, ingesting clean data from dirty to clean? And that's a really important point to all. And so we see a number of the 5 elements here that we see are very much as a familiar theme here. It's the technological justification, where we're possibly looking at how do I justify the ROI of moving from cloud if some of my own legacy storage is working? What are the justifications of an add-on business use case? Where are my additional revenue streams? What cost saving will I have if I augment my on-premise? So these are some of the ideas around it, taking advantage of the technology. If you hear a barking dog in the background, it's my, yeah, I do apologize about this. It's a new puppy. Let me just close this door. So when we look at it all, we have to look at what insights we're going to get from any new use cases that would be moving to cloud. And so I guess one of the key points that all of us need to think about is, what is the business advantage of a new use cases? What justification do I have? What business units is this going to take advantage or benefit from? How can I immediately show ROI in a subscription-based yearly on yearly basis? And so these are some of the things that when you think about capacity planning, you're looking at the cost of moving things over, you need to consider this as well. Mm-hmm. Also as well, when you look at workloads, how do we actually move data warehouse, the core applications? Can I do some analytics on which applications are key, which applications are not? And so these are some of the key elements that we've seen as some of the drivers towards doing all of this. I wanted to just run through UOB. I wanted to run through UOB because we're extremely proud of the work we've done with them over the last 3 years. And so, of course, the applicability being that they are exceptionally well thought of domestic brand in the Philippines, but also it was the motivation they had towards change. And so we engaged with those guys 2018. The fundamental phase one was just they wanted to have an understanding of where data sets resided. As they moved to a more modern technology, the key driver to all of this was multiple disparate data systems, but it was also this principal idea of a modern architecture. And so we helped them discover where all the data sets reside. We helped them do a data quality check and sanity check on the data they had within those systems. What you can see from the journey that we did over the last 2 years is we managed to migrate over 248 ingestion points across their organization. So there was a massive movement towards a Hadoop-based, cloud-based architecture. But where they also added some applicability in here, as I touched on before, is around the data quality. So they built in and mandated DQ standards across some of their PII data sets from legacy systems, and move those from both structured and semi-structured, move those into a cleansed single view. And so that the whole paramount point is business change, business driver, architecture change, movement towards a new infrastructure. Very heavy slide, but yeah, as you can see from this, there was a very, very large movement of data sets, structured, unstructured, and where we put them into one single point. As you can see from the GUI interface, this is actually one of Union Bank's proprietary slides they kindly shared with us. They are at the stage now where just at an ingest point, they can monitor 451 source points via a GUI interface to show the health of ingestion, schedule updates, what content has been delivered correctly. What they've also done in here is started to not just bring in the duration of ingestion, how long things have taken. They've started a second phase to start building in some DQ fundamentals so they can scorecard across the quality of the data that's been migrated. The driver and holy grail of this project is to be able to have a metadata framework that would allow them to see where all the data resides across Union Bank as they move towards this migration towards a cloud journey. And so they built new business initiatives. They've ingested from legacy. They've incorporated data quality standards. They've started to move towards a true self-service environment. So yeah, from a success story where we started very much at fundamentals, we're extremely proud of some of the work we've done at Union Bank around migrating towards genuine next-gen analytics. And so just stepping back, same things again. When we're all thinking about this, you need to think around the foundations of cloud transformation. And so discovery of content that's of relevant and high value to the organization, paramount. You want to consider certain use cases that may be real-time, may be batch. And this is where you can take advantage of what content you want to ingest. So in essence, if you have certain use cases that need to be more performant, if you are doing things around applications or internet, connectivity and speed of response is paramount. So these are the decisions you can start doing as you move towards a cloud transformation. Again, we're talking around the four fundamentals, bottom four. How do I govern? How do I govern data sets that are migrated? What Kent and I have seen quite a lot is organizations have chosen to move to cloud, but the data sets and still large amounts of the data sets they thought were going to move to cloud haven't. So the key element to consider here is how do I mix a hybrid architecture where I am trying to move things to cloud, but I'm in a transition period of doing that. And so the governance piece is of paramount importance. Same things I mentioned around the success of Union Bank, mastering, cleansing, and securing data sets. The applicability certainly for BSSI around masking PII content that could potentially show some kind of transaction data sets. It's even more applicable that you think about these disciplines from day one. So all of us, I want us to think around, are you even thinking of these or addressing these as part of your cloud journey? Because we've certainly seen the more advanced organizations have thought about these from day one and incorporated these into their architecture designs. So going back to the themes, modernization or migrate, let's talk through the migration piece. So you really want to start from fundamentals of organizations that are choosing the drivers to why they're going to cloud. Same principles of immediate ROI. In essence, how do I do that? Do I take a lift and shift approach? Do I just copy all of my core data sets that are relevant to my business and move those from on-prem to cloud environment? So I have replication over. Same things. How do I justify ROI of augmenting or replacing legacy? How do I justify the ROI of a subscription-based or monthly or yearly payment scheme that is moved towards some of these new cloud vendors. So I'm changing a capex opex model. I'm looking at principles of where this makes sense to my business. And so same things that could potentially be roadblocks here. You have rigid data models in situ. It's challenging to be able to move that data sets that you've spent numbers of years relying on a day-to-day basis with legacy systems. You've lack of governance from day one. And so in essence, you're not controlling who's touching what data sets. It could possibly be owned by one individual group within IT. And so you're not actually understanding or taking advantage of self-service cloud across the group. How do I optimize the costs? Again, we see this with some DevOps groups where in essence, you aren't sharing and taking advantage of the rapid rollout you can do with cloud because of maybe you're trying to do complete ownership of the cloud migration. There's certainly a reticence to share some of the advantages of a cloud environment. So you need to think of these when you start going to modernization environment. Of course, the upticks I've mentioned before is cost saving and agility, the business outcome, but you certainly need to consider the roadblocks that you're going to see around how do I manage the rigidity? How do I look at governance from day one? And so this is the whole migration strategy we have based around American football theme. Modernization. So a lot of this we see where organizations are looking to incorporate new business models. We see this an awful lot where you potentially see certain mergers and acquisitions, and the demand from the business is the fact that where they are looking to incorporate inefficiencies in architectures, speed up the holy grail of around self-service, and deliver those immediately to the business. So the same applicability here is we're looking around modernization. How do I modernize my architecture? I'm not taking a principal lift and shift. I'm thinking more long term. But how do I make big differences in regards to time to delivery, time to execution? Same principles apply here. Rigid models internal. I'm not thinking around governance. I don't know how to optimize my costs. And so we can see with here, how did you win quickly? How did you move to cost saving? How did you justify the ROI? Same principles of modernization here. And so what all of us should start thinking about as an open debate here to talk about as next steps is how do I do all of the modernization versus optimization debate, but how do I do this as quickly as I can with legacy content? So you need to start thinking about, as individuals on the call today, who am I? Have I even done the review of my architectures? Do I even have a business justification of cloud? Do we really need to move to cloud? Are there new business requirements? Are there new self-service requirements that have driven this? And of course, all of this is driven down to cost. It's the CapEx, OpEx conversion. How, in essence, do I move away from some of the technologies that we've had traditionally and historically paid for in a certain way over 10, 15-year ROI. Now with cloud, we can spin things up in a matter of hours, get returns in a matter of hours, justify immediate responses in days rather than weeks to months, what we've seen legacy and cloud. At this point, I just wanted to run through, or Ken, if you wanted to just run through where we sit and where we feel we've got some advantages in helping around this migration path.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dan, and hello, everyone. So this is actually a reference architecture that we work with a couple of customers in the Philippines. One of them is an airline. The other is a government agency. And the other one is an educational institution that is currently going through this modernization. And this is exactly the steps that they are currently going through right now. So what's happening here is for them, we start with phase one or step one is actually the data discovery. Again, for the customers, this is an actual journey that they are going through as they modernize their analytics in the cloud. And it starts first with the data discovery. Main reason for that is you want to know and you want to have a good inventory of your data landscape. Just like what Dan mentioned earlier, you don't want the garbage that you might already have in your on-premise data warehouse or on-premise data sources to be the same thing that you'll be putting up into your cloud data lake or a cloud data warehouse. Because if you do the same thing, or if you practically lift and shifted all of those garbage data into the cloud, you'll be having the same garbage analytics that you might already be having right now. So first, first, most of these customers, what they're doing is they would like to do the discovery, be able to determine the lineage and the overall glossary for their data landscape, so that as they now move their data from their on-premise data sources, streaming sources, or even their cloud applications, they're able to see how the data is being moved and where the data is actually moving all throughout their actual journey. So that's technically step one, phase one, going to the data discovery, which we actually recommend. Okay, but going through this modernization, some customers may prefer to get into migration already. Maybe because for some business reasons, business requirements that they just need to move data up into the cloud already. Okay, so that goes now into the phase two or step two, the data ingestion pipelines. So having multiple applications, multiple data sources, multiple on-premise databases, which would practically give you now the different ways of ingesting data, the different frequencies. Some of them will require real time and streaming ingestion. Some of them may require batch. Some of them may actually require a more frequent, or what we call a micro batch type of ingestion and integration. So all those will actually be addressed as we now build these data ingestion pipelines in order for you to be able to modernize your actual data landscape. Now, in this part is where customers are actually trying to determine on how they are planning to get into their journey. First, as they go through the discovery and then now building the data pipelines, is where do they now plan to dump all of those data that they have? Okay, some customers decide that, okay, I'll probably get into a cloud data lake first so I can start a little bit more slicing and dicing of data, curating the data before I feed it off into a cloud data warehouse. Some customers decide that, okay, I already have a cloud data warehouse. I already have a data warehouse on premise. I just would like to move up everything up into the cloud. And then all of those data are now being moved directly into a cloud data warehouse. And then part of their next phases or part of their future strategy is to be able to deploy and have a cloud data lake in order to feed those data. So for this reference architecture, for this journey, it is actually really, really flexible, and we can align it based on how you want to modernize your analytics environment. Okay, now let's say, for example, you'd like to get into the most typical route that most customers are doing, that the data is coming from on-premise, various streaming sources, or even cloud applications, lands first into a data lake. Okay, so once the data is in a data lake, that's where you now do most of your data massaging or slicing and dicing. So you put it up into a data lake, you now enrich that data, massage it, slice and dice. So you practically enriching those data so that as you now have those data ready within your data lake and feed off into your cloud data warehouse for further data processing and analysis and reporting, the same data lake can also feed those data up into a machine learning or AI engine. So most customers decide to go through that path, because as you now go into a cloud data warehouse for your historical data, you can now feed off the same data into machine learning or AI engine to give you a better analytics, to give you predictive analytics now that will help you out in the future. Okay, so practically, as what's happening right now, once the data is in data lake and speeding off in the cloud data warehouse, you can now start doing data provisioning into your visualization tools, BI tools, analytics engine, and even into machine learning, or directly from a cloud data lake. All of those structured, semi-structured, and also unstructured data can be fed into a machine learning engine, which now feeds off the data for business users, your analysts, even data scientists, and even for line of business users. So going through this actual journey, as what we have for our customers, is actually helping them out now go through modernizing their analytics. And this is where we're now helping customers. And mind you, some customers doesn't go through the actual 4-step process as we presented it here. Some of them decide to go with the data ingestion first and then do the data discovery later on. And it's exactly flexible reference architecture for our customers, and we help them out because not everyone can follow the exact same model. Not everyone can follow the exact same steps because all of the customers have their own way and have their own strategy to follow. All right, so that's a advice for me for now. I'll pass it back on to Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Kent. I guess at this stage, yeah, Kent and I have done all the talking. The idea of this was to have a bit more of an open discussion and to bring up any relevant questions that people had. Can I ask any one of the attendees, and please don't be shy, we're all in the same boat here. Can I ask one of the attendees to possibly comment on, or if any of the attendees have moved to cloud, where they are, and where they are in the stages, in the 4 stages that Kent has described. Is there anyone keen to go first?
We'd like to hear from our participants. Anyone? We encourage everyone to share your questions, thoughts, or insights with regards to the presentation. Gentlemen, feel free to ask questions, and Dan and Kent will be more than happy to answer.
Mhm.
Right?
Yep. You can just unmute yourself, or
Yeah.
if you're shy, you can put it on the chat window. It's fine too.
Yes. You can also utilize the chat box. You can send in your questions, and then I can read it one by one. Anyone from our participants? Our session is very intimate, Dan and Kent. So may I ask from Sir Julius, Sir Richard, Sir Bernard? How about from our partner, Ajan? Sir Jam? You have any question? Do you want something to share relevant to the presentation? Nothing?
Everybody's shy.
Yeah, everyone is shy.
Okay.
Nothing? I think Dan, they are shy, very shy.
Of course.
You may proceed.
I guess one thing that we also wanted to have a conversation around here as well is some of the work that we've done around the migration strategy. And so what we have seen an awful lot of is organizations that probably preconceive themselves to be advanced within cloud. And we've done a lot of work around maturity assessment modeling. This incorporates an awful lot of the stuff that Kent reiterated around dirty data sets, DQ standards. And so this is something that we'd certainly be interested in having a further conversation with, to be able to show the health check of organizations. Some of the things that we've seen that's actually quite interesting has been organizations that you would have thought are fairly advanced architecturally, but when considering the movement to cloud, some of the scoring metrics that we've done through the reports have shown that they are very much behind the curve in regards to maturity models for cloud. And so, yeah, this is one other element that we really wanted to bring in here. We've seen multiple stages of a journey around transformation where organizations are certainly at a different end. I guess one of the key things that we wanted to show here is that our ability to be able to do a due diligence of where organizations have, and we've seen some key advantages of that. So yeah, that's one element that we certainly do have run through for other organizations. But I guess, is there any pressing touch points? Is there any pressing things that any of the individuals on the round table have encountered as part of a cloud? Are any of the individual attendees already deployed with cloud architectures? Are they already deployed cloud technology? I'd love to get some response from anyone of the crowd.
I guess well, while you guys are thinking of questions, I hope you guys are thinking of questions. Let me share you quite a few things that we have done and probably discovered with those customers that we are working on right now with their journey into the cloud. So some of their main concerns and questions as they go through the journey is really going to the data security and compliance. Probably one of the few things that you are and will be considering as you go through this journey as well is how the data is being secured and will it be will it be compliant to the Data Privacy Act and data privacy standards in the Philippines. So that's actually one of the few things where we help our customers. So if you remember the architecture, there is a part of the discovery. Okay. And this is actually the first thing that we are trying to determine within their actual data landscape. Which of this data can be moved up into the cloud, which this data can be processed, and then get connected into multiple applications, either if it's on the cloud, if it's on premise, or if they really would like to fully modernize, land this data into a data lake to be processed into their cloud data warehouse. And this is where we're helping out customers because some of them, yes, it can be moved into the cloud, but data has to be masked or data has to be obscured so that it doesn't point back into their customers in the Philippines, which would get them in trouble if in any case there could be a data breach within their organization. So, again, those are one of the reasons why this is an actual journey, because if some customers would like to get into the cloud, modernize their analytics as fast as they want to, but there could be some restrictions. And that's where we are actually helping out our customers, try to determine which data can be moved to the cloud, which data, if it can actually be moved to the cloud, will have to be masked so that it doesn't relate back into their corresponding customers because of PII. So again, those are just one of the I would say main concerns that I've seen as we are working with customers in the Philippines to get them modernized for their analytics.
Ken, knowing your experience in cloud, could you just talk a little bit about what you've seen around organizations moving to hybrid cloud rather than single cloud? What your view is on that? Because I know you've been exposed to a lot of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so going to the hybrid cloud, and that's actually where we are really strong. We're not tied up into any cloud provider. I've seen customers in the Philippines who decide to get with the other cloud just because the main organization of the other cloud provider is practically conflicting with their actual business. So in terms of your actual constraints for moving to the cloud, most of the customers that I've seen and currently working on, they are working with at least 2 public cloud providers. And part of the reason why they're doing that is one, it could be personal reasons from the company owners. They don't want to work with the other company purely. The next one is for high availability, to make sure that they're not exactly tied down to one cloud provider to be able to run their business. And then 2, there are just some services that are working really well with one cloud provider and they want to utilize that. And then the other cloud providers utilizing and providing a better service on a specific account or in specific service. So, and that's what we've seen going to that. So hybrid cloud is a reality. It's becoming a lot more prevalent right now. Probably not like before, not like in the past 5 years we're in. Customers who like to really dig deep and double down into a single provider. Either that's Azure or AWS or even Google. But I guess you've seen it and you're seeing it right now in the Philippines that most of the customers are now utilizing both, at the very least 2 cloud providers for their services.
Very good. Thank you for that. There's Ajang, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, appreciate you sending on through it. Can you talk around the core theme of this is security? How do you have and can justify the same security SLAs that you have on-prem for cloud?
Okay, so when it comes to security, and I guess for some of you guys, you've actually read through the Data Privacy Act in the Philippines. Maybe some of you are the DPOs, which means that you can actually and you've seen what are the main requirements to get your data up into the cloud. So practically, the main the main thing there is if you get your data up into the cloud, you have to make sure that the policies that you're applying on premise will have to be applied the same way as you put the data up into the public cloud. And being able to extend those policies into the public cloud as you now go into a hybrid type of modernized analytics is something that will be the biggest concern that we are seeing with most of our customers. There are, however, some security policies that you cannot apply into the cloud because it's not applicable. And there are certain policies that you can apply that are natively available to cloud providers. And that's what we're seeing. So, and again, this is an actual journey. So we have to look through, as I mentioned earlier, as you do the discovery of your data, that's where you can determine, okay, this data, I can move into the cloud. If there are certain security policies that this certain set of data will have to be masked as we put on into this analytics, we have to apply the same thing. And going through this journey, going through this platform and our architecture allows you to apply the same rules, the same security, data masking, data quality rules that you can apply on premise and also up into the cloud. And being able to determine that throughout your actual journey is something that that our customers are going through right now. So those customers that at the very least, the industry that I mentioned earlier are are going through that actual journey now to be able to do that.
So we have the first question from Mr. Richard Donato. Hi, Sir Richard, from Aham Corp. Yeah, his question is, currently we have ERP under Microsoft Navision on-prem. What is the least period of time we hope to migrate to cloud?
So this is just talking about the time to expect of movements to cloud. Of course, this depends heavily on the legacy data, the legacy applications, what data sets you want to move. But what we have certainly seen in region as a benchmark against the traditional on-premise installation, maintenance support, you can consider migrating certain data sets into a cloud provider in a matter of weeks to months, compared to multi-months to years. And we've certainly seen this with some of the previous cloud projects where you can spin up a test environment, you can spin up a data playground in a matter of hours. And of course, agnostic of the cost saving of the core hardware infrastructure, it's this speed of deployment to be able to build up a sandbox, either for the compute or storage. You can do this rapidly as a comparison. Yeah, Ken, did you want to comment on some of the recent projects time-wise that we've been involved in?
Yeah. So yeah, that's actually I guess one of the few most common scenarios that we've seen. So customers are trying to move out of their ERPs on premise and then get them to the cloud. So I guess one of the few things that we ask them is, one, what would be the target application that they're looking into? So if they're currently feeding off information from your on-premise ERP into your data warehouse, if you have an on-premise data warehouse and that feeds off into your reporting analytics, that is also something that we also have to consider and then look into that. If you have the data from your current ERP that we can easily move up into the cloud, again, for us, it's just purely data, one-on-one data that we can move up to the cloud. Where customers are, I would say, taking a lot more time is the customization that they will eventually will have to apply into their target application or target system. With that part, unfortunately, we cannot assume some timelines because it depends on the capability of your partners, on the capability of the platform that you're targeting. But data wise, it's really easy for us. In one of our customers in Australia, we are actually moving 100 billion rows per week just to get them move up into the cloud. And it took them about 6 months just to move their entire data from their on-premise ERP into cloud data lake and cloud data warehouse. So there's some timelines that we've seen, but yeah, just consider those target application target systems that I mentioned earlier.
We have another question, Dan and Kent. It's from Agent Cruz from Nexus. So his question is, when it comes to migrating to cloud from on-premise, how can we say to our clients or users that even if it is on cloud, their data can still be secured? The same with on-premise, because usually this is the client's concern. I think it's more of the security.
Okay, I'll answer this, Dan, first, and then you can add later on. Okay, so when it comes to security, and I guess I've touched this a little bit earlier, and this could be related into the data privacy standards that that is applicable in the Philippines. So when it comes to data security and how you secure the data, law states that if you move the data up into the cloud, you should be able to secure it exactly the same way as you do it on premise. Okay, you can utilize the native tools for these cloud providers, or you can utilize the same tools that you are currently using on premise to apply the same security for your data up into the cloud if it's applicable. So how we help now in that part and in that journey is, again, as you go through the discovery and go through the lineage and part of the glossary is, if you move certain set of data from on-premise up into the cloud, if in your on-premise environment everything's actually secured, certain columns are actually masked, you're actually be able to determine that, okay, this specific table, this column has been moved into the cloud data lake or cloud data warehouse into the specific table and specific column. If in that case, as you move that data up into the cloud, that column is no longer masked or is no longer encrypted or is no longer secured, that is one of the few things that we can actually provide and give you a view of your actual discovery. Because if you move the data from your on-premise up into the cloud and the data is no longer being masked or is no longer obscured, then that's one of the I guess one of the problems some of our customers are going into, because it's a data privacy it's a data privacy issue that they will not be compliant now. So part of that, how we'll help our customers now go into that is being able to apply some data quality rules, master data management to make sure that the data security in terms of how your data is being processed is applicable as you go into the cloud. How you will secure that, at least for us, we're able to give the customers a view and help the customers that, hey, the data is no longer secured here in terms of the actual view of the data, but we will not, unfortunately, we will not be able to recommend that this is the security that we have to apply on your cloud data lake and a cloud data warehouse. That is something that we can give recommendation based on what we've seen on the actual data. If you can use your existing security platform on premise and apply that to the cloud, then it's going to be perfect for you. Yep. Want to add a few more things, Dan?
No, that's absolutely key. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are we good? Are we good, Ken?
Yeah. Yep.
Adrian, were we able to answer your question?
Yes, Miss Erica,
Do
loud
you
and
have?
clear.
Nice. That's great. Do you have any other questions?
No further questions. Thank you,
Okay.
Ken. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you,
Okay, Jen.
Adrian.
Yeah.
Any other questions from our participants? You may use in the chat box to send in your questions. I think we were able to cover all the questions in our chat box, Dan and Kent. So you may
Cool.
proceed.
Yeah, very good. I get this is us from here. So yeah, we've everything that we've spoken about today is the considerations that you've mentioned around migration, modernization. Where do you sit? What decisions you're making, not just technologically, but also from a business standpoint of showing immediate return on investment, justifying the change from capex opex. Once again, we would be very interested to run through, and Ken has been involved in this with a handful of customers in region, the cloud maturity assessment model. We've seen some key advantages by, again, this is free. This is things that we do just to show the health of architectures, the health of where you sit as you make those decisions to move to cloud. So yeah, please do take us up on the potential of us coming in and running this migration maturity model with you. Yeah, some of the larger organizations have seen some huge benefit in doing a scoring of where they currently are, the health of their current environment, the planned agenda to move towards cloud. So yeah, it's been a very useful exercise for other organizations to just define where they're at. And I think from that perspective, I think we can close things off unless there's any other questions or discussions. Firstly, yeah, that's unless we wait 10 seconds, see if there's any other questions.
Yep. And Dan and Kent, I would also like to acknowledge those participants who just recently joined the session. So, sir, gentlemen, if you have questions, you may raise it in our chat box, or you may unmute and turn on your video.
Yeah, again, yeah, I guess I'll add a few more things for the cloud data management maturity model. Again, that's free. You can go through that assessment. The data doesn't go to us unless you share it. So you can actually download the report and then see what your actual maturity model, maturity scores and grades in terms of how we've seen what we're doing and how you compare against everyone else. If you want to talk further into that, yeah, you can reach out to us through VSTECS or to Nexus, and we'll be happy to go through the actual assessment with you guys to be able to see where our current challenges are. We can validate that and help you out now go into your journey if you want to go through that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ken. How about you, Dan?
Yeah,
Anything else?
I just wanted to finish off here with we've obviously of course been exposed to the biggest customers, the smallest customers in region, and taking advantage of some of the newer technologies, some of this from Informatica, from other vendors. Just the consideration is the ease of being able to spin up a cloud environment now has changed dramatically. And so the ability to be able to start small and grow and justify our ROI over agreed timescales has become so much easier now. But all of us will be moving to cloud or some form of cloud architecture over the next 1, 2, 5 years. That's absolutely factual. But again, the key elements to consider are, as you're building out sandboxes, cloud-based or non-cloud-based, as you're growing the architecture of data stored in the cloud, you still need to think of things around security, governance, and data quality. And these are fundamentals to anything when you're making a decision, be it in a very small starter or a very sizable migration to the cloud. And yeah, we've seen organizations that haven't considered this, as I went through at the start, and they've backtracked accordingly. It's a very similar trait to what we've seen with some of the clients that moved to big data and Hadoop. They didn't start properly. They didn't decide to set up the architectures with the right technologies. And over the time of the project, return on investment was extremely tough to justify. Speed of deployment was dramatically affected. So all of us on the call, when we think about moving to cloud, which we all are going to be doing or have done, you really need to think about the fundamentals. And apart from that, I just wanted to kindly thank Kent, kindly thank VST ECS. We're really keen to work with with you guys moving forward. This is a very exciting space, and yeah, we're keen to see what the future holds.
Thank you so much, Dan and Kent, for that very informative and meaty presentation. I'm sure our participants were able to get learnings from from the presentation that we had. So, okay. So to formally close our session, let us all welcome VSTECS First Assistant Vice
Vice
President
President
and General
and General
Manager for
Manager for
Enterprise
Enterprise
Technology Group,
Technology Group,
Mrs. Vet
Mrs. Vet
Lana
Lana
Paner.
Paner.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dan and Jasmine, for that very informative presentation. Thank you, partners and customers, for joining us today. I would really appreciate your time to be with us. I hope you were able to gain insights into Informatica solutions. And we at VST will continue to look for ways to help you be effective and successful in your cloud transformation journey. Please feel free to reach out to Erica Valenciano, our host today. She's our product manager for Informatica, and she will assist you and connect you with our Informatica partners. Again, thank you and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Vet. So before we let you go, we would highly appreciate to get your feedback by completing our feedback form. So flash on the screen is the QR code. If you can't access it, link is also available in our chat box. All right. So I think we've come to the end of our session. I do hope you learned a lot from our presenter and you had a great time as much as we did. If you have any Informatica related concerns, you may reach us and we will be more than happy to assist you.